Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue from the 40 principles of the religion, 40 fundamentals. Al-Arba'in fi Usul by Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah wa nafa'ana bi fi darain. And we have reached envy. We are done with anger. I hope that we are done with anger, not only as a reading, and all the negative traits that one is capable of possessing. So Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah began with three traditions attributed to Prophet ﷺ. Of course, we'll speak about the chain of narrators because it is extremely important. Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, "Envy consumes good deeds just like fire consumes wood." Imam Bukhari mentioned this hadith not as a sound tradition, and he mentioned it تعليقا, and he said that لا يصح, which Imam Al-Iraqi in تخريج الإحياء took it as a reference here. But it, exactly the envy consumes not only the hasanat, it consumes like fire. Let's stick with the fire. Fire consumes wood, firewood, then ultimately consumes itself, as we say. And envy, Imam Ghazali would explain that you will hurt nobody but yourself. And in the second tradition, the attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, it's a weak, chain of narrators. It's a weak tradition. There are three things from which no one is saved. Speculation, foreboding, and envy. الظن والطيرة طيرة والحسد. I will talk to you about the way out of these. If you speculate, then do not verify. If you consider something foreboding, then continue onward. If you envy, then do not transgress. And though we said that the chain of narrators is weak, it's inevitable that people not really طيرة, not really envy, but speculation, yeah, that's pretty common. It's not a hadith anyhow, but in the absolute sense. But we look at with the message there. There are no different cultures. They have, for whatever reason, they have developed things that will cause them distress in terms of foreboding. In the United States, which I'm familiar with the culture there, broken mirror, that's really good, bad omen. They don't feel good about it. Black cat, crossing the street in front of you when you are driving, for example. Some people will stop, drive back a little bit, then back to forward, as if basically you wipe out the effect. You don't walk under a ladder, erected ladder. There are so many things that people are not comfortable with black. But I found also black cats. I found also that sometimes the same object, the same animal, the same bird could have different interpretations or impact in different cultures. There are cultures that find owls as a good sign, and there are cultures that they freak out by the presence of owls. And the word boom in Arabic, al-boom, always they think that it brings evil. It is followed by evil, but it's not a sound tradition. And the third one, uh, this is really narrated by Imam Tirmidhi. The part mentioned here in the book of Imam Al-Ghazali, part of it, the Prophet ﷺ said, "The sickness of the previous communities has spread to you. دب إليكم داء الأمم قبلكم." Envy and hatred. Envy and hatred. And hatred is a razor. Hatred is a razor. Is a razor okay? The literal meaning of حالقة, we talk about it really shaver, if one is going to talk about something literal. And the meaning here is that it's in the rest of the hadith, لا أقول حالقة الشعر ولكن حالقة الدين والذي نفس محمد بيده لا أقول والذي نفس محمد بيده لا أقول حالقة الشعر ولكن حالقة الدين yes. سدب إليكم داء الأمم قبلكم الحسد والبغضاء والبغضة هي الحالقة لا أقول حالقة الشعر لكن حالقة الدين والذي نفس محمد بيده لا تدخلون الجنة حتى تؤمنوا ولن تؤمنوا حتى تحبوا ألا أنبئكم بما يثبت ذلك لكم أفشوا السلام بينكم. That's the rest of the tradition says that I don't say to you that it shaves hair, rather it shaves religion. When you shave something, you just cast it away. It's not used anymore. And the Prophet ﷺ took oath by him whose soul is in his hands by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the soul of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You will not enter paradise until you believe, you become believers, and you will not be believers until you love each other. Shouldn't I tell you that which will bring this to you, make it firm. أفشوا السلام بينكم, spread peace amongst you. Easy said for us today, because we are really, whether internally or externally, either it is done to us or we do it to others. Of course, there are those amongst us who spread salam in the real sense, and not only as an exercise in talking, but in real life. And I'm talking about the opposite. Sometimes we spread hatred amongst ourselves, and sometimes we spread it to other communities or other people. And it's not only us, it's all over the world. I can see that there is so much suffering, there is so much conflict, there is so much killing. Justice, which is a cornerstone for peace, is taking the back burner, and all this talk about peace without justice is, really, it's empty talk. You cannot really demand that just that peace will be the way to justice. Is the other way around. Really, we have to talk about justice all over the world with justice because of the lack of distribution of resources, proper distribution, just distribution. The neoliberal economic order paradigm failed. It's not there anymore. Things are changing, and many people are, including what's happening around the world because of the climate change. Probably there'll be, if things continue like this, we'll end up with a billion people migrating to here. When we talk about greener pastures, it has a different meaning. The certification, drought, and of course military conflicts internally, and of course with others. Now we talk about the a statement attributed to Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the envious person is the enemy of my blessing. My blessing is now almost like a hadith Qudsi, but of course this is attributed to Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam. And I don't think it's marfu'. So the envious person is the enemy of my blessing, with capital letters, angered by my decree, and displeased with the division that I have allocated between my slaves. What's really hasad? Hasad is wishing that a ni'mah or more will that have been granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to someone, and that the envious person wishes that this person who is enjoying the ni'mah will not have it anymore. They wish that it would disappear, will depart, that it will not stay with him or her, of course. That's really envy. And since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives the rizq, the sustenance, allocating really, and I really appreciate very much the translation of using the word allocation, and the qisma. It's as if one is opposing, rejecting, negating, objecting the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is it's very, very, it's not only a very problematic thing. How could one do that? Know that envy. I'll go back to what Imam Al-Ghazali says as a commentary. Know that envy, which is to like for the blessing of another to be removed, or for a calamity to befall him, is unlawful competition, which is to be happy for another and dislike for his blessing to be removed, yet desire the same thing for yourself, is not unlawful. Okay, and this is really the big difference between hasad and ghibta. The second is okay, that you would wish for the same thing. You are not wishing that it would depart. Competition, which is to be happy for another and dislike for his blessing to be removed, yet desire the same thing for yourself, is not unlawful. It is also permissible to like for a blessing to be removed from someone who used it for oppression and disobedience, because you do not want the removal of the blessing, rather, you want the removal of the oppression. The sign of this is that if he were to leave disobedience, you would not like the removal of his blessing. Envy is caused by pride, enmity, or the evil of the ego, which is a thing concerning Allah's blessings, Subhanahu wa Taala, on His slaves when they are not in its interest. The idea of wishing that something will depart, it could be a supplication. Uh, May those who oppress lose that which they have because of that oppression. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them to that which is right and then forgive them. All those who waste the resources of humanity on armament, on the military industry, on which also benefits from military conflicts, creating military conflicts, attacking countries outside the law, international law, in violation of international law. So may those who use the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to oppress people lose it. Envy is caused by pride and enmity or the evil of the ego, which is a thing concerning Allah's blessing subhanahu wa ta'ala on His slaves when they are not in its interest. In His interest, the envious. How to treat envy and remove it from the heart. Know that envy is one of the heart's greatest sickness. It's a serious sickness. And only the combination of knowledge and practice can treat a sickness of the heart. And I like the Arabic expression that Imam Al-Ghazali uses, ma'jun, like a paste. Combination here in Arabic is really a paste made out of, it's a metaphor, made out of knowledge and practice, and can treat sickness, such a sickness of the heart. As for the knowledge-based treatment, it is that a person knows that his enemy, whose envy, harms him rather, and does not harm the one he envies. Rather, it benefits him. It harms the envier by nullifying his good deeds and exposing him to Allah's wrath, subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the envier is angered by Allah's decree and is stingy about the blessings from his treasure troves being spread out over his slaves. This is harmful to his religion. It harms his worldly affairs, in that he never ceases to be in constant distress and grief, which is what his adversary desires for him. For indeed, the most important objective and most perfect blessing for his enemy is the sorrow of the envier. The latter had intended for his enemy to be tested with affliction, yet it happened to him. The envious person is never devoid of distress and affliction, while his adversaries, or at least one of them, never cease to be blessed. As for him, benefiting his adversary and not harming him, this is because the blessing will not go away due to his envying it, has no impact, as Imam Al-Ghazali's position. Though in popular narrative people think that it's not your decision, it's not your Well, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees something, then that's a different story. In addition, the envier multiplies the good deeds of the envied, since the former's good deeds are transferred to the latter. This is especially so if the envier is always speaking ill of the envied, who is in this case wronged by the envier. That becomes backbiting, and the good deeds are transferred. And if you don't have good deeds, it's the other, you'll take from his bad deeds. The envier has sought the removal of a worldly blessing from the envied, yet, in fact, he has added to it a blessing in the afterlife and obtained for himself a worldly punishment, along with punishment in the afterlife. He is like the one who throws a stone at his adversary but fails to hit him. The stone bounces back, hits his eye, causing him to lose his sight, and increases the malicious joy of his enemy, Iblis, Satan, Shaitan. The blessing has surely been lost on him, as well as contentment with divine decree. If he had been content with it, there would have been a reward for it, especially if he was envious of knowledge or piety. For indeed the reward of the lover of knowledge is magnified. As for practice, it is that a person knows the ruling of envy and what entails in regards to both statements and action. He thus opposes it and practices its opposite by praising the envied, showing joy because of his blessing, and being humble with him. Through this, the envied will become a friend to him. Envy will depart and will be freed from his sin and his pain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Repel a bad deed with that which is better, and he for whom there is enmity between you and him will be as if he were a close friend. A very beautiful verse, subhanallah, extremely beautiful. Uh, which really means that people might think that it's impossible, might be difficult, might be, but the Quran says that it's possible to change enmity. It might take effort, changing conditions, but it's possible except with Satan. Except with Satan. I remember the story of the member of the political party in the Dutch, in Holland, the Dutch political party that made it this is the Geert Wilders party, right wing, Islamophobic, creating all kinds of narratives and movies against Islam and the Prophet ﷺ. Then one of them, a member of the parliament, who made it really his career to do that, while he's searching for shortcomings or whatever in the Quran, in the Hadith, and he became a Muslim. Subhanallah, he became Wali Hamim. Perhaps your ego does not obey you concerning equality between your adversary and your friend. Rather, you dislike what is bad for your friend, but not for your adversary. You like blessings for your friend, but not for your adversary, and you do not trouble yourself with what you have no power over. If you are unable to control that, then you must free yourself from sin with two things. The first of them is that you do not manifest envy with your tongue, limbs, or voluntary actions. Rather, you oppose what envy entails. The second is that you dislike your ego's love for the removal of Allah's blessing subhanahu wa ta'ala on any of his slaves, it's not up to you. If you see something that people are enjoying, a ni'mah, know that is really very common, a ni'mah that is special, a ni'mah that is really unique, just make a dua of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless this ni'mah, that will increase this person, that really it came from halal, and that it is for halal. Bismillah, and in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes. If you are unable to control that, then you must free yourself from sin with two things. The first of them is that you do not manifest envy with your tongue, limbs, or voluntary actions. Rather, you oppose what envy entails. The second is that you dislike your ego's love for the removal of Allah's blessings subhanahu wa ta'ala on any of his slaves. If this dislike is religiously motivated, but you still coupled with the love of the removal of a blessing as dictated by your natural disposition, that will be with your natural disposition. Here it's your طبع. Usually in English, when we use natural disposition, we might be referring to fitra, which is innate. For you surely will be unable to do so most of the time. The sign of your dislike for the removal of Allah's blessing subhanahu wa ta'ala is that whenever you might be able to remove his blessing, you do not proceed to do so despite wanting it. Also, if you were able to assist him in keeping his blessing or increasing it, you would do so despite your dislike of that. There is no sin upon you. There is no sin upon you concerning what your natural disposition dictates. For indeed, natural disposition becomes risky only in regards to the one infatuated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He whose vision has been cut off from material things and the creation, he knows that this blessing does not benefit the one who has received it, if ultimately he will be in hell. If he will ultimately be in paradise, then what is the blessing? What is this blessing relative to paradise? Rather, he sees all creatures as slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and loves them because they are slaves of his beloved. He loves that the effect of his beloved's blessings on his slaves is manifest, and this is a rare state that is not included under the rubric of moral responsibility. بل يرى كل الخلق عباد الله تعالى فيحبهم لأنهم عباد محبوبه، ويحب أن يظهر أثر نعمة محبوبه على عباده. وهذه حالة نادرة very rare لا تدخل تحت التكليف. It is not going to be demanded of people because it's difficult. Very, very, very rare. May we enjoy such a state of being. The heart should be basically very, very purified, clean, in preparation for such a state. Yes, may we never envy anyone. May we yes, not to extend our eyes to the blessings. Of course, we look at the blessings. If we look at blessings, then we remember the blessing and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, we should. To enjoy looking at the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as signs of that manifestation of Allah's generosity towards His slaves, and just simply also thanking Him for the ni'mah that befalls someone else also. Subhanallah. Who كلا نمد هؤلاء وهؤلاء مع عطاء ربك وما كان عطاء ربك محظورا. سبحان الله. Until tomorrow inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. And tomorrow is about stinginess and love of wealth, of money. Assalamu alaikum.